What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Josh Robinson Show. I am Josh. Today, I have a very special guest. You probably see me and this guy interact on Twitter a lot. Usually, we're insulting one another. It's all out of love, but at the same time, also, kind of like fuck off. I do have the one and only Mags. Mags, the host of as many podcasts as I have, which is, at this stage, a lot. So, Mags, we talked a little bit before, but how you hanging in with all this shit?
Get wrecked.
It's get absolutely wrecked. If you're going to insult me, do it fucking properly.
No, it's great to be on. I love speaking with Josh. Yeah, I agree. We give each other loads of shit on Twitter, but yeah, I love this guy. I'm really supportive of all the stuff he does. But I'll get into that in the outro. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Like I said, pre-recording, I've been practicing social distancing for about 10 years because I dislike people in general. I think the people are just a bunch of dicks. So yeah, this for me is good.
It's like you've been preparing for so long. You're like, oh, finally, my time to shine. Yeah. I can relate. I like sitting inside, I like being around animals and not around people, to be completely honest. So I agree. But yes, if you do see us on Twitter, we interact a lot and we're always, throwing something at one another. But Mags is the only person that for 99% of the time I can say whatever I kind of want and know that he'll know that that it's a joke. So much respect and much love to you, because this world can be a little sensitive, and sometimes you got to be a bit careful with what you say, because some people don't have that kind of sense of humor, which is what we're going to kind of talk about throughout this episode and kind of go into it and stuff like that. But first off, I want to talk to you about something that I want to pick your brain about, because you talk to so many people on probably what my favorite show of yours is, which is Why We Watch. I love Why We Watch.
Thank you.
I love that show. I just think I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. It's a very simple idea, but it works really well, and I just really like that.
To be fair, all the wrestling podcasts that I do are simple ideas, and I think they're the ideas that work the best when you kind of convolute ideas and you have like all these different kind of twists and turns. You can kind of get away from the point of the show, and I think just talking with wrestling fans it's my baby. I absolutely love that show. And I'm so glad that other people are enjoying it. That kind of like makes me feel like I'm doing something good.
Yeah, Why We Watch is like, as much as people don't want to admit it, it's very easy to talk about yourself because you're an expert on yourself. No one else knows you like you. So when someone asks you to talk about yourself, it's like, oh, well, okay, I've got knowledge in my own brain. You can just say what you will because it's you. So I just think it's a very, like you said, when you overcomplicate things sometimes, not saying it always doesn't work, but for the most part, a simple idea like Why We Watch will work so much smoother in my opinion. But I've been on Why We Watch twice, and I love it. Was still to this day, with the amount of podcasts that I've done and guested on and whatever, it's still one of like the best experience that I've had, just having a conversation just about wrestling, about life, whatever it may be, with Why We Watch. So I just really like that show. So what I wanted to kind of pick your brain on with all the shows that you do, because you have like a UFC podcast and you have Badlands, which is the Mount Rushmore podcast. You have Why We Watch. What else do you do? Is that 3? Is it just 3? There's more, isn't there? You have like 5.
No, I've the 3 that I produce. Okay. And then I'm now involved with one with Matt Willis and Conrad Newton. That's Conrad's podcast, but it's kind of like a round table where we come together monthly or sometimes fortnightly, just whenever there's some major wrestling news, and we give our opinions, and we kind of have a moan and a bitch, because it's kind of refreshing to be able to. I'd say I'm relatively a positive person in wrestling Twitter, and it's just good to be able to have a bit of a moan every now and again. So yeah, I'm involved with that. But yeah, my 3 podcasts, Why We Watch, Badlands, and 5 Rounds. yeah, they're all kind of like passion projects, but for different reasons.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to really just zone out and do these shows. And when it comes to
Hmm.
producing content and doing these, it all starts from a small idea and then it kind of just escalates. But I've always, even before I kind of first talked to you, I always thought, and I've told you this on many occasions, and I'll blow smoke, I don't give a fuck. That I was like, oh, Mags is someone that's just got it together. You never give yourself credit, so I'm not going to allow you to not give yourself credit in here. You need to give yourself some credit because you're always like, I don't know what I'm doing, but like you do, you have good stuff, and I've always looked kind of up and been like, yep, that's where I want to kind of aspire to be, and then be like 1,000 times better because hello, it's me. But you are someone that I see like a lot of. There's elements of I can see why you're doing something, and I do kind of the same thing, and I just really respect that about you. But you do have good. You do have good content when it comes to creating podcasts or content, whatever you want to call it, um, where does it all kind of begin with you? Are you very natural in the way that you approach podcasting? Because you don't seem like someone, again, this isn't a disrespectful thing to say, but you don't seem like someone that really plans a hell of a lot in advance in the terms of like, this is exactly what we're going to talk about. You seem pretty free flowing.
Yes and no. I'll go back to the beginning of how I got into podcasting. Basically, I've been listening to podcasts for years now. It's with how I work at home, it's kind of just background noise, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really ever had the kind of inclination to create my own podcast. And then I was invited by Matt Willis onto his show to do a prediction contest for I think it may have even been a WrestleMania a couple of years ago. And I got that bug, like when you sat there recording and you're talking about wrestling, you're kind of nervous at first, but once you settle into it and you really get into your stride and you think, yeah, this is something that I could really, really do. And then I was invited on another show, like I think it was like the week after, for a guy called Ray Cash. That was The Outsider's Edge, and that was kind of like the solidification. Yeah, this is something that I could really get into. So I did what most fledgling podcasters do. I kind of put the feelers out there onto social media and kind of got a bit of advice off people who created podcasts and what kind of equipment to get, what kind of style I should have, and I really took that advice to heart and kind of formulated an idea. And then I was speaking in a Discord chat with a good friend of mine, Mark Aaron, and he wanted to start a podcast. And we said, well, why don't we just start one together? And it kind of grew from there. It was almost like a throwaway comment that let's start a podcast. And yeah, it really resonated with me. So we sat down and we come up with the idea for why we watch. And yeah, it just really, really it really spoke to me because I like listening to other people's opinions and listening to their views and their stories. I find it fascinating how we're all in exactly the same place as a wrestling fan, but we've all taken so many different routes to get to where we are, and we've all had so many different experiences. So yeah, I thought it was a really, really good idea. Anyway, unfortunately, Mark had to bail after a few weeks with personal problems. So then it was just me left on my own. And I go back and listen to those earlier episodes, and I almost sound robotic because it was like the nerves, and you have a set list of questions that you ask your guest, and I kind of never deviated away from it because I didn't know what I was doing. It's not something that kind of came naturally to me. I think I've learned more going over the time, and I'm now 60, 70 episodes in, and I think it's a lot more free flowing now. I do the Why We Still Watch episode as well. They kind of more like a free form chat. Yeah, no, I think I've grown as a podcaster in terms of that. And to get back to your original question about how I plan it, in terms of the content and the subjects, especially with Badlands, we kind of we have a week's to research the topic. So that is kind of free flowing. But in terms of like booking guests and getting episodes canned, no, I am anally retentive about it. I have guests booked 6 to 8 weeks in advance. I think I've got about 6 episodes in the can now. Especially with this coronavirus, if people can't record, at least I know I've got something to be able to put out. I speak to JPQ and Queen a lot, and they record their episodes one day and it's released the next. And no, that it makes the hairs in my arms stand on end. Like I could not do that. That would make me come out in halves. But so yeah, it's kind of free flowing in terms of the idea of the content, but the actual setup and the logistics, no, I am very, very retentive about it, and it's way planned in advance.
Yeah, well, if it makes you feel any better, I record Reverb on the day it comes out. So, and I'm not too far in advance. Like maybe a few days. Sometimes I'll record a couple of weeks in advance. But I've never been one to be too in front. Only because the stuff I talk about usually is pretty current. So I don't want it to be outdated. That's the only reason I can see why you decide to be like, I want to record this and then release it so far, away because you want to get episodes in the can. Because a lot of the stuff that you talk about, especially with Why We Watch and stuff, you can kind of, for the most part, do that because it's a journey. So you can kind of talk about it and release it whenever. So I understand that, and I can hear in the stuff, when I listen to your shows, I can kind of be like, from where we've all been in that spot where we're just not as comfortable, and you can kind of hear it in our voice. You go back and listen to my earlier stuff; it's horrendous, and you're like, oh man, because I'm so like I've got to talk about this, and then I want to make sure that I'm watching what I'm saying, and I'm kind of trying to be a sentence ahead of myself. When now I'm just kind of like, I don't really give a fuck. I'm just natural, and I think, for me, and I think you could probably agree with this in terms of you, is that I'm not relying on almost what I'm saying anymore. I'm just relying on, it sounds corny, but being myself, because I feel like that's kind of what shines through anyway. It's like the context is almost, plan B in a weird way. It's like you happen to be talking about wrestling, but it's the personality that kind of shines through even on a podcast, and you're not seeing it, you're not visually seeing it, so you have to be a little bit more animated, of course. But I'm just kind of, I don't know, you have taken to podcasting really well, and I feel like I'm getting in that zone now. Especially, I talked to you a couple of months back on Why We Still Watch, and I have said I've got a lot more confidence in myself. I can hear that with you as well. Like in spades, I'm like, yep, Mags, I can tell when Mags is nervous and when Mags is like, no, I've got this. I'm kind of just comes second nature to a certain degree when you get used to it. But it does take time for people out there that are maybe listening to this, or just for anybody. What was the advice you give people when they're like, I want to start a podcast, and then they're in that structured zone, when they're in that nervous state? What is something that you could say to be like, just chill out and something? And what would be the advice you would give to someone starting out?
Right. The first thing I would give advice to, and I did this with BJ from Ozillution when he started his podcast, is sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and write down your ideas. And if your ideas take more than 1 or 2 sentences, cut that idea out, because it is too complicated. And then the second one was sit there and record yourself talking. You don't particularly have to put that episode out or that content out, but you need to get comfortable being able to talk into the void, because one of the hardest things that I felt was to learn was being able to talk to nobody, being able to talk out loud and still kind of make sense and still kind of have a conversation when there's nobody there to talk to. I mean, luckily I have got guests on my show, but there's always been times when I've had to sit there and talk, and you need to have that confidence. And like you said, you have heard yourself from earlier, and you realise that you've picked up that confidence, and you've kind of learnt that way of being able to just talk into the void and still have have content there that is worth putting out. So you need to really practice that. And then the third one is what I've just said: practice, 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 practice. As much as you can, start talking, start recording your thoughts when you have ideas. Just get everything down, and then after that, just practice. And in terms of equipment, don't go out and spend an absolute fortune on it, because the likelihood is you are not going to make money from this. Don't ever think that this is going to be your job or your business. That can be a part dream. I'm not saying don't have the dreams of it being your job or your business, but don't look to this to being your job or your business. Have fun with it. Don't make it a chore. Don't spend an absolute fortune on your equipment. Just go and have fun, because essentially that's what podcasting should be. It should be fun. If you're feeling like it's a chore, why are you doing it?
Yeah, I've always said that if it's no longer fun, then that's the moment I'll stop doing it, because we're not doing this because we're like, oh, we're not doing this for the sake of like, oh, there's millions of people listening, or we're making a ton of money off this. That's not the reason we're doing this. You shouldn't get into this. Of course, you always want to expand. I know I am always in the sense of like, I want more people to be listening always, of course, but at this stage, what I'm doing, it's because it's fun, and it's because it's just something I want to do. If it's ever a time when I'm just like, I don't want to do this and I'm not enjoying this, then that's when I'll stop. And I think that's the most important bit of advice I can give to anyone. If you're just, yes, nerves and a little bit of like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. Yes, that's going to be there, of course. But if it's like an energy where you're like, this is not fun, this is stressful, then it's not for you. And it probably never will be if you're in that zone of this isn't fun at all. It should be fun. I remember the first episode I did of Reverb, and it was like so fun because, of course, as you always like to put on Twitter, I love to talk. It comes pretty fucking natural to me to talk. So talking into a microphone, I was like, sign me up. More people can hear my voice. Yes, please. Of course, it was trash. The first episode of Reverb, which is somewhere on the internet, it's just so bad. But you just get you're more comfortable with it. It still is very unnatural to talk into a microphone, especially when you're doing it on your own. It's like, whoa. But I think it's just finding that happy medium of nerves and being comfortable and fun, and there's so much that goes into it. But when you look back over all of the shows that you do and all of the episodes that you've created and all the people that you've met, it must be a pretty cool feeling that I don't know how much you can talk about this. I'm sure you can talk about it in some length, but you're going to be a part of Smart to Death Radio, which is like huge. And it's like, I couldn't think of, there's many people I've talked to in the wrestling Twitter world or just Twitter world in general. There's not many people I could probably put on the same list of people that just deserve to be in that spot. You very much deserve it.
And I have to heartily disagree.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that. Blow smoke. Let's just tap yourself on the back. It's a good thing.
It's not in me to do it. It's really not in me to do it. I do this because I enjoy it. I don't think I'm anywhere near the quality of the podcasters that I listen to. I don't think I'm anywhere near your quality, and I'm certainly not anywhere near the quality of like Queen and Pup. These guys are so super talented. I've been I just can't understand how lucky I've been. When I started While We Watch, and I took the idea to the Visionaries Wrestling Network, they signed it up without even hearing a single word of my voice, which is just absolutely amazing. Then they allowed for 5 rounds, and then obviously you know the story with Badlands and the whole Brainbuster thing. But yeah, I can't put into words how lucky and honoured I am that people have kind of taken these podcasts and really, really enjoy. I mean, Badlands, as you know, moved to Chairshot, which just blew my mind when we were kind of looking around for a new home for Badlands, and we got these amazing offers. And yeah, just the likes of Chairshot, which is huge in the podcasting world, especially in the wrestling podcasting world, and then we're now moving to e-wrestling news, which is the third biggest wrestling website in the world in terms of traffic. So there's the potential there for hundreds of thousands of people listening, and then the Smart to Death radio thing. Wow, it absolutely blew me away. All the people who were involved in that, and then little old me from the
I will
north
blow
of it.
smoke, everybody. I don't care. I'll hype this man up. He very much deserves it. There's a reason he has so much stuff like e-wrestling news and chair shot and now Smart to Death radio. It's because you are good at what you do. So I'm not going to hear anything else. But you very much do deserve it, and you're in good company. I mean, that's pretty impressive lineup of people. But let's just, before we'll talk about Smart to Death Radio again in a minute, but we've had conversations about this many times through DMs, and we have a couple of times on podcasts, but I want to talk to you about your time that we really became familiar, where we really got to know each other, was, of course, the former Brainbuster Radio. It's where I gained so much more confidence, and I'm sure you did, and all the others, and where we kind of all became... We stopped being internet friends and started. I consider you guys all real friends. You know a lot about me, and when Brainbuster started, I think this was the mindset of all of us. But we all just wanted to be the best we can be, and we all wanted to make this fun. And we knew we had a good group of people. When you first got offered Brainbuster Radio, and then coming into the beginning of it, did you think A, that it was going to last a lot longer than it did? And B, did you know we had something pretty cool?
I think once we saw the Brainbuster Twitter handle kind of blow up and gain like hundreds of followers in like a matter of days, I thought this could go somewhere. This could be very, very interesting to me. And for all his faults and for all the kind of drama that he caused, Wilf did have a good man for kind of promoting the podcast. We were out on YouTube, which is something that I would have never really thought about. He pimped every show out as much as he could, and we were getting some top-notch content out, and yeah, it was special. And I think Fowl put it the best when he did kind of like a breakdown of how Brainbuster went after it closed down. We were on the kind of tip of everybody's tongue. We were like the cool kids of the wrestling Twitter / podcast world, and it was good to have that feeling that people were interested in what you had to say and the content that you were putting out. And unfortunately, the good stuff died young, and we did fly way too close to the sun, and we got our wings burnt. But looking back on it now, like 6 to 7 months after the fact, we're all in a better place because of what happened with Brainbuster. Yeah. You're obviously doing amazing work with the network, and I'm so proud of you. You've got that Headlock Talk, Conrad over at Everything Pro Wrestling, and the Queen and Pup Connection, all doing amazing things. And then you've even got people like Luke, who was really badly burned by what happened, and now...
I mean, Luke is just... Whew.
He's killing it.
I get so it. I see his stuff, and I'm just like, he is such a good person. I've had many conversations with Luke, and I'm just like, that is it couldn't happen to a nicer person to see so much great success that he's getting with the Football Manager stuff. And shout out to him. Big congratulations to Luke, of course. Just had a little one. So, I'm just... when I see stuff from him, I'm just like, because we don't really interact. Well, we interact on Twitter, but we don't really get to speak to Luke on a daily basis like we used to. But just to see him off doing his own thing is just like, you go, dude. You just go and kill it, because he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, he was the one who was burnt the most. He not only lost his podcast because of what happened, he lost the kind of love of our wrestling
Mm,
podcasts.
yeah.
But he also went out and went to bat for Wilf. And kind of lost a lot of that goodwill in the wrestling community. And now, luckily, he's been able to claw that back. But yeah, I think as bad as Brainbuster ended, we all benefited from being a part of that, from learning from each other, from having that kind of experience.
Mm.
And yeah, it was a pathway. It's all led us to bigger and better things. So I can't really be that downhearted about it. Would I have liked it to survive? Absolutely. I think we were part of something absolutely special. But in terms of our group, nothing's really changed. In fact, I'd say we're kind of tighter now than we
Yeah.
were back then.
Yeah, I agree. It's weird to say this, but I don't think I would change what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some of the few little details here and there, but the outskirts of things, I wouldn't really change the kind of trajectory or the timelines of things, just because it led us to where we are now. Like, we're all
Yeah.
doing our own thing. We're all doing pretty well in the terms of what we create. And I mean, I've just, when I first got asked to be a part of Brainbuster, I was really surprised, and I was like, whoa, and I didn't have that confidence of, I was just like, I don't fit in here, I don't belong here. I was just like, I'm much newer for the most part, other than like Queen and stuff like that, but I was like, I don't feel like I'm naturally fitting here. I just don't see it. And then I look back on it now and I'm like, yes, this is gonna, no matter how confidence comes across, it's always gonna come across cocky in some sense, but I don't mean it this way. But I did belong, and you did belong, and we all had our own place. We all were there for a reason. And yes, Wilf did have his own stuff and whatever, and I'm not gonna get into that because I'd rather not, but he did have an eye or an ear for people that were talented at what they. There was a reason why he picked us, and he was very good at judging that for certain sometimes, and I think he did well with the collective of people that he had. Just it ended, and it was that fast when it ended anyway. So I was just like, cool, all right, on
Yeah.
to the next.
I've spoke about it before, but I was actually in the middle of recording
Yeah,
a lot of content for Badlands, and then came out and Brainbuster was dead and buried. It
and you're
was
just kind of like,
amazing.
cool,
Yeah.
wicked.
But fun fact, and I don't think I've ever shared this with anyone. And I don't know who Wilf shared it with, but when Wilf was coming up with the idea for Brainbuster, way before it was even a thing, we were speaking in the DMs, and we were coming up with the idea of Badlands. And I said to him, "What about the idea of a Mount Rushmore show?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's a cool idea. No one's really focused on it before." And he actually rejected it at first. He came back to me about a week or so later on, and said, "Yeah, I don't think it's going to be kind of the right fit." So, yeah, it may have never ever happened.
Oh.
And then he came back to me a few days after, and he went, after thinking about it, yeah, I still think it's a good idea. I think he said that he got you involved and Queen, and we needed something kind of different. And I think Badlands is different in the way that it's you get review shows and interview shows and stuff like that, and they're all quality podcasts. Don't get me wrong, but there's so many of them out there
Yep.
that it's kind of hard to kind of put yourself above everyone. Whereas with Badlands, I don't know of any other podcast that does that kind of thing. And
The
if they do,
structure of Badlands is very different to, say, Reverb or Queen's Court or whatever. It's the structure of it is, it's just, lack of a better term, it's just different. I mean that in a great way, but it's just very different, especially with that group of shows that we were a part of with Brainbuster. So, yeah, it's just different.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, it may never have actually been a thing if
That's
Wolf
crazy. I
would
didn't
have
know that. Yeah.
stuck to the guns. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's certainly been really, it's been interesting since, you know, we're pretty much a year to nearly the day, a couple weeks out of actually Brainbuster first, you know, launching. Of course,
Yeah.
we knew about Brainbuster maybe a month or two before. I can't really remember the timeline that well, but we were certainly in the mix of things at this time last year of like, we're gearing up to start this and launch this, and we're all like, we didn't really know what to expect because it could have just been a giant flop and we've been like, cool, whatever, we'll just go on and continue on with our business. But it wasn't. It was pretty damn successful. It was certainly the most exposure I had at podcasting at that stage ever. I've never experienced. I was only podcasting for not even a year at that point. So I was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. And you do notice, you're like, whoa, more people are interacting with me. I have more people going, hey, I listened to your show. And not to say that it's increased or anything since then, but I feel, I don't know about you, Mags, I feel I've retained those people or retain that audience since Brainbuster ended. If not, maybe expanded, but I feel like I've at least retained it.
For me, I'm almost positive that I've expanded mine. Obviously, I've gone from Brainbuster to a huge network in
That's true.
Chairshot. But I've never been a figures guy. Even when Wilf gave out like the weekly breakdown of who was listening to, I never checked on it because that's not what I'm about. I mean, fair play to everybody who wants to know that their analytics. I understand it. People do want to grow and they do want to thrive and they do want to know that people are listening and enjoying the content. I understand that. But for me, it was always about the Twitter interaction. If one or two people said on Twitter, oh, wow, that's an amazing show, I really dig that, or maybe you could do this better, that was the kind of validation that I got from it. And I've noticed that since leaving Brainbuster and then going to Chairshot, I'm getting a hell of a lot more of that kind of interaction and that kind of like feedback from Twitter. So even now with Chairshot, I couldn't tell you the amount of listeners that I get. I just know that I get a lot more interaction with people on Twitter about the show. So that to me shows that more people must be listening because they kind of like giving me that feedback.
Yeah, it's so weird where I feel, Mags, I don't know if you sense this, but I think the reason we can be so fun on Twitter and have a bit of a sense of humor is because I feel like we are very similar. I feel like we are very similar people in the sense of the way we think and the way we operate and the way our sense of humor is very similar as well. But it's so funny to me is that when it comes to stuff like, I am the opposite. I like to know my downloads. I like to know what people are listening to, what people are liking. I'm the same with Twitter interaction. It's funny how different it feels just from a retweet and then a quote tweet or a comment, and it's like, oh, someone's actually caring to say what they think about my show, whether it's criticism or whether it's good or whatever it may be. I'm here for it all. I'm always improving, but it's the differences in how we are, I guess. I like to know. I think it's a little bit more now that I have this network stuff, and I'm like, I want to know what people are liking, what people are not, because I want to know what to put on, because I've never been shy about saying this. I feel like I say this every week on my shows, but it's just because I'm not afraid of saying this. I always want to continue to expand. I want to get bigger, and I want to be as big as it can be. Of course, I'm a dreamer, not a realist. I'm very much in the sense of, if this could be my job, I would sign on the dotted line. But I understand that's probably not realistic. But I live for that. I'm like, okay, this isn't working. I want to talk about something else. I want to touch up something else. I'm always, you know how I am. I'm always constantly trying ideas, constantly trying new things, seeing what sticks, seeing what doesn't, because I'm not really afraid to fall on my face, but I'm also just the one to kind of get back up and go on to the next idea. That isn't working. No one's really paying attention to that. I'll go and try something else. You're pretty good with that kind of stuff. You like to try different things here and there. I can tell with the way you do your podcast. But what do you say to? It's like when I say stuff like that to you, And in point of view of your mind, how do you kind of process that for you? If you could sign on the dotted line and be like, this could be my job, would you want that? Is that something that you ever aspire to do?
No.
That's fair.
Um, the would it be amazing to be paid to be a podcaster? Um, yeah, I dare say that it would. But for me, doing this is a release of pressure.
Yeah.
It's fun. Whereas if it became kind of like the way that I earn my bread and butter, I think it would actually add to that kind of pressure. It's just not something that I think I'd be able to cope with mentally if I knew that I had to put out quality content because it's affecting my bottom line. It's affecting whether I can put food on the table or whether I can pay my bills. I think that kind of pressure would make it not fun for me anymore. I like to do this because I've had a hard day or I'm stressed in my normal life, and I can come on to the laptop, chat with Paul for an hour or so, chat with a guest, and you kind of like forget what's going on, and you can have a bit of a laugh. I can give Paul a lot of abuse. He can fluff the outro, and I can have a giggle at that, and it's kind of like a release. Whereas I think if it was my main source of income, I think I'd be more, well, again, anally retentive about how good the content is, and
Yep.
that's not going to earn enough money and stuff like that. But on the flip side, I can totally see why someone would want to do it as a full-time job, because some of the best jobs in the world are where you're enjoying what you're
Yep.
doing, where you're doing something that you love, and that's earning you money. And I totally get that kind of viewpoint. And guys like you and Queen and Fowl, you guys could do it. I could totally see you guys being full-time podcasters and making a very, very decent living because you've got that kind of energy and passion for it. But for me, I think it's kind of like it would take away the release, and it would just become a pressure almost.
Yeah, it's like I totally get that. I understand that completely. I can see why someone wouldn't, why someone would, because it does take. A lot of people think podcasting is like super simple, and I will admit it. I thought it was before I started doing it, and then started doing it. I'm like, this is a lot harder than. Yes, it's fun and it's relaxing. It's like when you get your groove in it and stuff like that. But it can be days where you're like, oh man, I'm sitting here doing this, and it's not. It's sometimes you're like, oh, I gotta feel air. Like it's again, it's pretty easy for me to talk and stuff like that. But feeling air is you don't want silence. You never want silence in a podcast. If you're like stopping and then, getting your thoughts together 5 seconds later, that's a lot. That may as well be hours in between in those sentences. And I'm sure you did it. I did it when I started a lot. I would take like a lot of breaks and I'd do a lot of and just be like,
Yeah.
fuck. Like I go back and if I've ever listened to my old stuff, I'm like cringing. I'm like, ugh, why are you doing that? Stop doing that. Because you just learn habits and you're like, I know how to like take that away from myself now. So it isn't easy by any stretch of the word, I don't think. But that's just me personally. We keep talking about, especially, we're in a pretty weird time in the world at the moment. Just with all of the stuff that's going on, and a lot of us are spending a lot more time at home, and to have podcasts, or for my instance, I'm doing gaming stuff and whatever else I'm doing. It's a blessing in disguise to have this kind of stuff, isn't it? Because you have something to do. Because we are, all jokes aside, we do go outside of our homes, and I'm sure you do as well, Mags. I mean, you might not. I don't know if you've seen the sun in 10 years, but for me personally, I have. But it's kind of like we're stuck inside, so let's pump out content because it's like what else can we really do?
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I said, I'm already planned in advance anyway. So way before this Corona like news hit, I already had episodes in the can. So if I recorded a lot more, I'd end up with maybe 3 to 4 months of backlog. So I'm kind of like holding off a little bit with that. But what I am doing is I'm I'm available for more people to have a guest on if they ever wanted to speak to a moron from the north of England.
Which, why would they? Yuck. Ugh.
Exactly,
Ugh.
exactly. But I think this Spark to Death Radio project has landed at the right time because now, and I'm giving you a little bit of a
A scoop?
like a
Exclusive?
scoop, yeah. We're doing a kind of a reveal episode with the whole team sometime this weekend, I think. But my plan for one of the days that I'll be releasing content is to re-release a lot of the Badlands episodes. As you'll know, the one when the Brainbuster feed went, a lot of those episodes went down the pan.
Yeah.
But luckily, I'm quite. Again, I keep going back to it, but I'm quite anal and retentive, so I've kept all the episodes. I've got them all stored. I've got all the breakdowns of each segment stored, so they'll be getting uploaded to the Smart to Death feed. So I've got the project of like cutting out the Brainbuster intro and outro of everyone, and then like re-rendering the episode. So I have got something to occupy my time whilst we're on lockdown. But yeah, I'm taking it day to day with it. I think well, I hope that we'll as a race kind of quickly get over this and move on and get back to like some sort of sense of normality. But yeah, podcasting is helping to fill that void.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you in that. Just, I think we will get past it. It doesn't really seem like there's an end in sight right now, but I know we will as a society get past it. Just going to take some complying and whatnot. But something that, I said we're going to talk about this, and we keep going back to the way we are on Twitter. There's a reason that we are like that. With that, it's important to have a sense of humor, I think, in the world. I think it makes us all kind of... I couldn't imagine not having the sense of humor that I do. What a boring human being I would be. But I just think it's important because we live in the year 2020 where, listen, you're like 75 years old, so you're way older than me.
Fuck yourself.
You and me...
Rude.
You've seen much more of the world than I have. I'm just like 7 years old. But you and me know that in 2020, while I love the world and I love that we are reacting as a society and being like, you can't say this, you can't say that. Yes, that's a great thing. But I think the world is a little too sensitive, I think, because sometimes even I'm like, I can think of something, I'm like, oh, that's funny. And then I'm like, I should not write that. I can't write that because I'm scared of being like, you're always going to offend someone, and then someone's going to be like, you're a bad person, and it's like, whoa, I don't want to be coined as that, and it's like, sometimes I have to reel myself back, which in a sense is fine, but what do you think about that? The way we are, not that we're saying anything offensive, but do you think the world is way too easily offended with things? Because I'm sure you've had times where you're like, oh, I can't say that, or I can't say that because this person won't like that, or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. The world is way too sensitive, and the person I am on Twitter, whilst it's not a character, it's definitely kind of a diluted version of how I am in real life. If you ever get the honour of speaking with Mrs. Maggs, she will tell you I have no filter, not one inch of a filter. And sometimes I always kind of try and make light of stuff because I don't want to get bogged down in kind of like depression. I've had a lot of times where I've been to some very, very dark places, and the way I kind of got my way out of that is by being funny and making light of some stuff that most people probably wouldn't. I have got a foul mouth. I swear a lot. I name call, but it's all just to kind of like break the tension. I'm very much new to what I say on Twitter.
Oh, me too.
And the only person who gets even kind of an inkling of that is you. Well, you and probably Paul.
I'm the same.
And from when we first ever interacted, going back to the round table that we did with Wilf, I knew from then that we clicked as friends. We had the same kind of sense of humor. We had the same kind of mentality. And then when we spoke on Why We Watch, I knew that you would be the kind of person who I could definitely like vibe off, and who I could definitely kind of have that banter. And whilst it took a while to get there, I think now me and you have so much comic relief, even when we're both in like moods where we're kind of doubting ourselves, and we're really downhearted. It only takes one witty comment from the other one,
Yep.
and it makes me smile. Some of the stuff that you do is just absolutely makes me just giggle. You did an episode recently with Ditz, and you said go on, take his idea of Badlands and make it better because fuck Mags. And yeah, I was creasing, absolutely creasing. So I instantly got onto Twitter and fired back saying, yeah, this is the moment I stopped listening to Ditz and Mags. And yeah, it's just, I love that banter that we have, and it comes across to like an outsider.
They
Jesus
must think
Christ,
we
and
hate each other.
yeah, yeah, they're giving each other some shit. Why they're still even following each other? But yeah, there underneath that is a massive lot of love and respect. I could not be any prouder of you. I think
Bitch.
the from speaking to you so long ago, over a year ago now, and to see where you are now, yeah, I'm ever so proud of you. I'm proud of all the former Brainbuster team, but I think you especially, the fact that you've took these steps to make a network, and the amount of content you put out, but it's all good quality and diverse content. Yeah, I'm so proud of you, Josh.
Oh, look at you. Of course, the standard reaction from people would be thank you, but for me, it's I fucking know because I'm me and I'm the best. No, thank you. I do. You know that I do appreciate what you're saying, and even when you're walking around on your walker, which you'll probably be doing in what, a couple years? It's a couple years away. Yeah.
I don't even
Um,
think it's that long.
you just be like fucking these kids on my fence, like you'll be like waving your finger at like the neighbors because they have their music up slightly too loud or something like that. That sounds about right for your age group. We won't go into that too much further. Uh,
I've actually said to the missus I might look at getting a stair lift very soon.
well, fucking same, because what a fucking way that would be to just be like, yeah, see ya. I'm not. Why walk? Why
Exactly,
walk?
exactly.
I'm too
And well,
lazy.
and we've got a grandchild now in the house, and we've
Yeah.
got safety gates around, and they're fucking annoying as well because you have to open the gate to go
Ugh.
into a room and then close the gate
Oh,
behind you. Yeah, aren't
sounds like
kids
work.
like little shits?
Ugh, yeah, kids are the worst. Don't get me started on kids. You
And
know I
in
ain't a
fact,
fan.
going back to coronavirus, that's actually one of the worst things about this for me. Is we have I've got two grandchildren, one that lives here with us, and then one who lives a little bit into town, and not being able to see the one that
Yeah,
that lives in town is it's a little bit horrible. But luckily, even an old man like me can work Skype, can work Facebook Messenger and stuff like that. So we still get that kind of interaction. But yeah, that's that's
that
actually
would be hard. That would be
yeah,
very
it is.
hard. It's
It
like
is.
even for me, like I'm staying away from certain family members, and I'm being like, I don't really want to go out and see friends at this point because you are
Mhm.
meant to be social distancing and kind of staying in your homes and trying to minimize the amount of visitors you have, and it's
Yeah.
very different. Uh, Obviously, we've never experienced anything like this in our lifetime, so it's like very it's very hard to just completely 180 be like, oh, this is what we have to do now. Yes, okay, some people are like, yeah, well, I just kind of do this and whatever. But when you're told, like, you cannot go do this, it's like, that's when you want to do it. You're like, oh, I want to go to the pub. I want to go do this. And it's like, you
Yeah.
cannot do that at the moment. It's a wild time. And something else that I know you like and I like, and it occupies a lot of my time when I'm at home, is playing video games. I love a good video
Yes, I
game.
do.
I can just zone
Yes, I
out
do.
and you're like, oh, I've been playing that for 2 or 3 hours, and you're like, there goes all that time, especially in a time like this when you have no reason not to be home. So another thing that I like to do is play a lot of video games. I know you love Red Dead. I love Red Dead. GTA, all those open world games, and they're like my favorite things in games in general, is that open world kind of feel. And I have you on PlayStation. I can see what you're playing every now and again. It's usually Red Dead. It's usually Red Dead 2. You're always playing Red Dead.
It's either recently it's been either Red Dead 2 or Sniper Elite 4.
I've seen that too. Yep.
Where you can shoot people in the testicles.
I love it. I was gonna say I love shooting people in the testicles, so that comes out really fucking weird. But you know what? Whatever. But yeah, I pass a lot of my time with playing video games. I can kind of get lost in a world of games. When you're in this situation that we're in now, have you noticed you're playing more video games, or is it just business as usual?
Yeah, so much more.
Yeah.
So much more. I think I'm on Red Dead Online. I'm at rank 310 now.
Jesus Christ, Mags! Holy fuck!
Yeah.
Oh my god!
You obviously. I'm assuming you played Red Dead Online.
Very briefly. I'm more of a GTA Online person. Personally.
Oh well, I'll get into that in a minute. But on Red Dead Online, there's kind of two sets of money in the game. There's actual dollars, and then there's the gold bars. I think I've got about 1,500 gold bars and absolutely nothing to spend it on because I bought everything in the game. And I think I've got about 30,000 of the dollars, which you'll know the missions you get like about $3 or $4 per mission.
Crap. Holy God, that's
it's
a
efficiency.
lot of time.
And then if we're talking GTA, now I haven't played GTA in a good couple. I have not played any of this latest Casino Heist DLC. But when I left GTA last, I think I was on level about 800.
Oh my God.
And I had about 300 million of GTA dollars.
Oh my God.
I've got every car you can get. All my garages are full with like supercars and stuff like that. Once I get into a game, I hit that game hard. For GTA, the reason I've got so much is because there's like a glitch where you can get a solo lobby. Because I'm not the best social player, I'm quite competitive. So if I can get on a game on my own, that's all the better for me. But yeah, I haven't played that for a while. But I might start getting back into it if this coronavirus thing keeps me locked down for a while.
Oh, well, when you get back into it, I'm going to come fucking run you the fuck over. It's going to be my greatest life moment, I think.
You'll struggle because I use the flying back all the time.
Oh. You're crazy. Well, it has been really fun to chat with you, to be completely honest, as much as that makes me want to throw up saying that.
Rude. So rude. I'm never coming on this show ever again.
Good, because you're not ever fucking invited again. I lost a bet and I had to have you on. That's why I'm here.
Until you're struggling for content, people always come back. I think that's how it's worked with Spark Death. I've just pestered and pestered and
You've been
pestered.
like that kid at their door that just keeps knocking and they're like, go away, and you're like, no, please let me in, I'm cold.
Yeah. I'm the Ralph Wiggum of wrestling podcasts. People just feel sorry for me and just invite me on.
What's that one where he chuckles? I'm in danger.
Yeah.
Sitting on the back of the bus.
Me fail English, that's impossible.
Oh man. Well, it has been nice to chat with you, and I'll give you this next hour and a half to plug yourself with all the shows that you do and what's coming up for you with Smart to Death Radio. So, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and sit and speak with you for an hour or so. I really do. For as much shit as we give each other, I really do think the world of you, and you are amazing. You can find my shows on the Visionaries Wrestling Network. I have Why We Watch, where I speak to wrestling content creators and just fans of wrestling about how they got into enjoying this wacky sport of people pretending to fart in their underpants. Then I have on the same network a UFC podcast called Five Rounds. That's a passion project with me and my son Carlos. Carlos is very, very deep into MMA. He's the current British hardcore freestyle champion. Hopefully, we'll go into the Worlds if they don't get postponed later in the year. And he's got such a bright future in MMA. And on that show, we go over UFC events and kind of give our thoughts and opinions on it. And then the big show, the show that's kind of taken everybody's hearts and minds, I suppose, is Badlands. Badlands obviously started at Brainbuster, but has now moved to Chairshot and now is currently on e-wrestling news as well. And that's also going to be going on to Smart to Death Radio. I think we're looking at a start date of the 1st of April, and I think that's going to be the first show that's on that date. So it's an exciting time. Badlands is a kind of a guest based show where we'll discuss the Mount Rushmores of wrestling, but not just the standard one of the greatest wrestlers, but each week we'll have a different topic, and we've even kind of been branching out into doing almost drafts now, where we'll come up with a top 10 of a certain topic. So usually that'll be with me and my tag team partner and podcast wife, Paul Tully, but unfortunately coronavirus has struck with him, and he's with being a single parent, he's kind of got work to deal with, and then homeschooling his daughter, and as fun as podcasting is, it's not a priority. So he's obviously stepped away for a few weeks. We were actually discussing over text messenger. He was looking at maybe me thinking of replacing him just in the temporary, and it's absolutely not anything that will ever cross my mind. That is Man and Paul's show, and it will be Man and Paul's show till the day it finishes. I'm happy to fly solo on it until he's in a position where he's ready to come back. But yeah, there'll be definitely no replacing Paul. I don't think I could abuse someone as much as I abuse Paul and kind of get away with it. So yeah, you can find that on the Chairshot network. You can find that on e-wrestling news, and very, very soon you'll be able to find it on Smart to Death Radio. I'm so excited about that project. You don't even understand how excited I am about it. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah, I'm very excited for everybody on there, and I'm just happy to see you guys all thriving and doing bigger and better things. And it's just like, whoa, just congratulations to you all. And I'm sure I'll chat with Queen and JPQ before all of that goes down, but I'm just very excited for you all, and you all deserve it, and I'm ready to hear it, ready to listen, ready to be a fan, and be happy listening to all of that. So make sure everybody go and check out all of Mags' shows, and make sure you follow him on Twitter. Where can we find you on Twitter if anyone's not following you at this stage?
You can find me at Josh Robinson 00. Come and give me a load of shit, abuse me over there. No, please. You can find me. You can find me at DAJ Kirby. I really should change it to something more wrestling oriented, because
what about if at Mags is a bitch? That's a good one.
Yeah. I bet that's available as well. It would be. No, you can follow me on Twitter at DAJ Kirby. Come and give me some grief. I love that, having banter and kind of debates on wrestling. So yeah, come and give me a follow. Come and check me out.
Yeah, make sure you go and follow him. Go and check out all of his stuff. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at Josh Robinson 00. You can find all of the stuff you need to find for the Josh Robinson 00 network. You can listen to Brothers by Law tomorrow here on the Josh Robinson 00 network, and all of the other great shows that I do, as well as all the Josh plays, everything else like that. Until next week here on the Josh Robinson Show, I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye, everyone.